Hello everyone and welcome to another New England University Transportation Center webinar. My name is Michael Plotnikov and I am a principal investigator on Motorcoach seatbelt study sponsored by Federal Highway Administration, National Highway Transportation Safety Administration and by Sara Foundation. Today we are going to discuss the development and implementation of promotional actions aimed to increase seatbelt use on motor coaches. So perhaps because some of you may not know, let me explain. A motor coach or over-the-road bus is defined as a vehicle designed for long-distance passenger transportation. This study is focused on large motor coaches, which typically have 3 axles, an elevated passenger deck over the luggage compartment, and carry about 50 passengers. Motor coaches are very different from other types of buses, as they typically operate at much higher speeds on interstate freeways. There is a couple of major operations for the motor coaches. Fixed routes, scheduled operations include interurban, rural, commuter, and bus shuttle operations. Chartered operations include bus group tours, special event services, sightseeing trips, and package tours, such as one included with a hotel. This research, led by University of Massachusetts Transportation Center in collaboration with Sara Foundation, has covered a lot of grounds for almost a decade. It all started at the Motorcoach Seatbelt Summit held at Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. back in 2017, followed by research projects sponsored by National Safety Council, National Highway Transportation Safety Administration, Federal Highway Administration, New England University Transportation Center, and by Sara Foundation. The presentation will briefly describe the research motivation and milestones, as well as major results, products, and lessons learned. So let's start with the motivation. And here is where the Sara Foundation comes into play. Sara Foundation was established to perpetuate the memory of Sara Christie Shuey. In 1996, Sara, a beautiful and loving young woman, and several other passengers were killed, and many were injured in a fatal bus crash. Sara's parents, Anne and Charlie Shuey, have always felt that if there had been seatbelts on the Sara's tour bus, she would still be alive today. The foundation has acted as an advocacy group and provided a huge motivational force in support of this research. The primary mission of Sara Foundation is to sustain Sara's living spirit by promoting travel safety, standards and practices, particularly related to use of seatbelts. While being one of the safest modes of highway travel, motor coaches still have a lot of tragic accidents. As you can see from the recent examples presented on this slide, fatal crashes on motor coaches occurs regularly across the country, including the northeastern region. The video presented on this slide shows the consequences of the bus rollover. It is important to mention that unbelted passengers pose a serious threat not only to themselves, but also to other passengers, including those who buckle up. In 2013, following the string of tragic accidents, Congress finally adopted a rule mandating an installation of seatbelts on all new motor coaches produced after 2016. About 11,000 new large motor coaches have been manufactured annually, and over 33,000 of them are on the road today. Hundreds of millions of dollars have been invested to equip motor coaches with seatbelts, yet the vast majority of passengers still do not use them. Nowadays, most motor coaches are equipped with seatbelts. However, recent studies have found that just about 5% of motor coach passengers buckle up. This means that if there are, say, 40 or 50 people traveling on a motor coach, there are only 1 or 2 of them actually buckle up. Hence, the efforts should be made to promote seatbelt use, to increase safety, and to maximize the benefits of these investments. According to National Highway Transportation Safety Administration, seatbelt use on motor coaches can reduce occupant fatalities by up to 44% and moderate to severe injuries by up to 45% during the crash. In case of rollover, seatbelt use can reduce fatalities and severe injuries by 77%. While commercial motor coaches are structurally safe and heavy vehicles, high-speed collisions and rollovers still present severe risk to passengers. In addition, the average inpatient cost for crash victims who do not use seatbelts are 55% higher than those who decide to buckle up. Our study has 5 major milestones. On the first step, we develop a set of seatbelt promotional actions on board of the vehicle for fixed route and scheduled services. On the second step, we expanded seatbelt promotional actions to the bus terminals. Then we design a seatbelt promotional actions for chartered coaches. Following that, we prepare a guide for motor coach operators in collaboration with state regulatory agencies. And finally, we develop the best practices and recommendations for the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. So, let's talk about the first 2 stages of our study. The idea was to conduct before and after counts of motor coach ridership and seatbelt use and compare the results using statistical analysis. The seatbelt counts were performed with the motor coach traveling at the interstate highways such as I-90 or I-93 during the free-flowing traffic conditions and between 30 and 60 minutes after departure to ensure that all passengers have enough time to finish their boarding chores and they could feel that the vehicle was traveling on a freeway fast enough to feel the need to fasten the seatbelt. All trips scheduled carefully to ensure sufficient passenger loads, absence of transfer, and good ambient light conditions to facilitate consistently accurate seatbelt counts. The motor coach ridership and seatbelt counts has been conducted with the help of special form, which include a detailed summary of the experiment, such as the date of the trip, departure and arrival location and times, the total number of passengers, and the number of those who choose to use a seatbelt. In addition, the form provides information on whether verbal announcement has been made prior to departure, as well as specific seatbelt verbiage. The middle section displays a schematic front to back view on the motor coach, with a typical seating plan where each seat is numbered to assist observer in counting passengers and seatbelts. Details presented at the bottom of the form regarding passengers' age and sex are intended for future experiments and were not used in this study. During the conduct of the baseline counts, our team members pay a close attention to existing messages on motor coaches which promote seatbelts. Unfortunately, most of the existing seatbelt messages are not consistent, poorly placed, insufficient, and overall are not very effective. On the basis of observed problems with existing promotional messages on the board of the bus, the research team developed a catchy logo featuring a motor coach hugged by buckled seatbelt in the center with the slogan "Be safe, sit, click, ride, please buckle up" surrounding it. The logo was designed jointly by a research team and a professional graphic artist and has been consistently used throughout the study. Its design and appearance receive positive ratings from passengers who participate in the post-trip personal interviews and focus groups. They describe it as a very appealing, catchy, easy to remember, and, most importantly, effective at persuading them to buckle up. After baseline counts were conducted, a set of promotional actions was developed. We use a general rule of marketing. You should provide at least 3 distinct actions to achieve substantial change in behavior. Our promotional actions were also designed to be simple, effective, inexpensive, and easy to implement. The first promotional action was verbal message by Motorcoach operator. To facilitate consistency of verbal messages among Motorcoach operators, the research team developed a short script to be integrated into existing driver's announcement. The script read as follows: "Your safety is always our first priority. That's the reason why our motor coaches are equipped with seatbelts. Please help us to ensure your safety and keep your seatbelt buckled up while the bus is in motion." The next promotional action, the graphic message printed on a 5 by 5 inch glossy sticker, was placed on the back of each seat at eye level for the average seated adult passenger. And the final action was exterior signage. The original design for the graphic message placement included a sandwich board or a sign placed on the bus entrance door or on a bus panel next to the door. Because sandwich boards and signs on the bus exterior raised concerns among motor coach carriers and were found ineffective during passenger post-ride interviews and focus groups, a new placement on the platform gate pillars has been selected as a third promotional action. Signs at the gate pillars or columns were found to be more effective, less expensive, as well as easier to implement and maintain. As the result of implementing of promotional actions on board or near the vehicle proved successful, the research team decided to expand the action to the bus terminal. At the bus terminal, the same rule of having 3 simple, effective, inexpensive, and easy to implement promotional actions was used. The first promotional action, the dispatcher's verbal message, is delivered via the public announcement system at the platform at the terminal during the bus arrival and boarding. For consistency, the announcement used the same script as the bus driver's announcement described earlier. The second promotional action includes graphic messages in the waiting area of the terminal, preferably posted on electronic displays. Displays offer several benefits over traditional static signs, including large size of the message, which clearly visible under different light conditions, ability to display multiple messages and dynamically change messages without significant effort or investment, and the ability to display messages where a static message posting is not possible for a number of different reasons. For example, historical places. If electronic display is not available, traditional static message placement such as poster boards near the gate entrances and other key locations throughout the bus terminal may serve as an alternative. The recommended size of the poster is at least a standard letter size to ensure visibility and readability for passengers boarding or waiting for the bus. This slide provides 2 examples. The one in the center provides a large electronic display in Springfield Union Station. The one on the right side is a smaller poster board at Boston South Station, where electronic displays unfortunately not available. And finally, the last promotional action at the terminal includes a graphic message at the ticket window in the form of a poster placed on the top of ticket counter. While some may argue that most motor coach passengers now purchase tickets online, our observations and surveys of dispatchers suggest that as many as 20% still visit the ticket counter. Many of them are elderly people who typically prefer traditional signs. Let's take a look on the results of promotional actions and their impact on seatbelt use in Massachusetts. If no actions are taken, only 3% of passengers decide to buckle up. When you implement actions on board of the bus, this number will increase almost 10 times to 30%. If actions will be expanded further to the terminal, the seatbelt use exceed 40%, or more than tenfold from no action scenario. I would like to stress out and make it clear that these results were observed on a limited one-corridor study and probably will need another confirmation. Nevertheless, our team made an effort to ensure that the experimental results were statistically sound. First, we calculated the minimum sample size for a 90% confident interval with a 3% precision level. Then, a simple two-proportion z-test was used to determine if there is significant difference between the before and after counts. Calculated point estimates indicate a substantial effect of promotional actions on seatbelt use. As all promotional actions turned to be a success, we designed a kit designed for nationwide distribution to motorcoach operators. It includes a script for the drivers and dispatchers' announcement messages, as well as a set of graphics to facilitate the production of other promotional actions on board of the vehicle and at the terminal. The kit is designed with a high level of customization possibilities to allow multiple options for modifications, production, and distribution. Motorcoach carriers and bus terminal management will receive the kit in a form of electronic files. Prior to distribution, the kit was shared with the key stakeholders representing both government and industry to receive their feedback. As shown in the quotes from the slide, all groups of stakeholders expressed strong support to our efforts. The research team drew several important conclusions from our experiments. First of all, passengers need to be educated about the existence of seatbelts and also need friendly reminders to buckle up. Promotional actions increase seatbelt use, and drivers and dispatchers' verbal announcement are the most effective actions. At the same time, graphic messages on board of the bus and at the terminal work as a supplemental reminder for passengers. Finally, while consistency in graphic messages is found to be beneficial, verbal messages work better if delivered in a less formal and more personal manner. So now, let's think about chartered motorcoach operations. You may ask, how they differ from what we just learned before? Well, first of all, they depart from random locations, not necessarily from bus terminals. That limits our capabilities to carry out promotional actions. Also, they have disproportionately high accident rate. And the reason for that may be that the majority of chartered operators are smaller businesses. They typically have less robust driver training, bus maintenance capabilities, high driver workload, often travel to new destinations, and have overnight trips. How about high number of fatalities and injuries? Well, that may result from older fleet and limited coach maintenance capabilities. However, another person on board, such as a tour guide, can provide an excellent opportunity to further promote seatbelt use. So why we strongly believe that the tour guides provide a new great opportunity? Well, first of all, because typically, unlike bus drivers, they do have excellent communication skills. In addition, their primary duty not just talk but communicate with the passengers. They can provide multiple reminders and even some soft enforcement throughout the trip. In fact, our initial data indicate that the seatbelt compliance in response to tour guide message on chartered motor coaches exceeds the effect of all promotional messages implemented on regularly scheduled motor coach services and is over 50%. Some of you may ask, 50%. It's still well below the typical seatbelt use rate on, say, cars. That is correct. But please take a look on observed seatbelt use on regularly scheduled motor coach routes in New England and California. Guess what's the reason behind such a drastic difference between the two regions? Well, I'll give you an answer. It's a seatbelt law. Currently, there is only 2 states that have enacted seatbelt law in motor coaches. First was California back in 2018, and then New York followed in 2025. In both cases, seatbelt laws were enacted following high-resonance, deadly motor coach crashes. Massachusetts has a great chance to become the first state in which such law will take effect before the tragedy happens. Also, we strongly believe that our promotional campaign, coupled with the law, will finally be able to bring seatbelt use rate on motor coaches to the same level as on the cars and other highway vehicles. So what we learned from our studies? First of all, we learned that training and guidance are the keys for successful implementation of promotional actions. The difference in seatbelt compliance between well-implemented and poorly implemented actions could be drastic. And finally, we truly believe that government involvement in seatbelt safety education, promotion, as well as legislative actions is absolutely necessary. So what we're doing next? First of all, we will develop and distribute a brochure to help state regulatory agencies to encourage seatbelt use on motor coaches. Then we'll create a seatbelt safety announcement module for inclusion to Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration driver training curriculum. Finally, we'll prepare a best practices report for the FMCSA to distribute nationwide to motor coach carriers. And I want to conclude saying the following. Our primary objective on this study were to increase seatbelt use on motor coaches to save lives and to reduce injury severity. Because we are looking at a major behavioral change in a society that grown not using seatbelts on motor coaches, and in fact, not even on school buses. We need to use all available mechanisms to change this paradigm to prevent further tragedies. If you feel that this is an important issue, you can help us by participating in the following activities. It should be pointed out that such activities fell outside of the scope of this study and were sponsored and carried out through the enduring effort of Sara's Wish Foundation and its boards of trustees. This study is still a work in progress. Please feel free to let us know if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions. You can also email us at mplotnik@umass.edu. We will be happy to respond. Thank you, and please buckle up when riding a motor coach.